Let's bring into the conversation Democratic Senator Amy Klobuchar of Minnesota. She's chair of the Senate Rules Committee, which will meet today to mark up a bill to reform the Electoral Count Act. Senator, good morning. It's good to have you with us. I think we should take one step back for our viewers and remind people what the existing Electoral Count Act is. There's been some attention around it, obviously, in the last couple of years, and what you believe needs changing to it.
Sure. And first, I want to thank you guys for being the check on the lies, the check on the conspiracy. And part of being a check is the job we have to do today. And that is take an 1877 law put in place during the Rutherford B. Hayes era and make sure that we have a democracy and an process that basically reflects the will of the people. Because you know what happened. January 6th is not just a date. It was a date that we were counting the Electoral College votes. Pretty much a ceremony, but it became a rallying cry for the insurrectionists. So what we're doing here is updating the law. It's bipartisan. Senator Collins and Manchin headed up a group of senators with Senator Blunt and I as heads of the Rules Committee working with them. And today we're going to get this bill out of committee. What it does makes it clear. Vice President, ceremonial role in this game. And by the way, when those insurrectionists were 40 feet away from Mike Pence yelling, "Hang Mike Pence," Donald Trump was trying to use that old law in a way that wasn't correct. We're clarifying two out of 535 people. That's all it takes to lodge an objection and create havoc in this process. We're putting that number up in this Senate bill to 20%. Number three, you can't have legislators after the fact creating slates of fake electors, and we're clarifying that process. And the fourth thing is a very clear appeals process. So we're working together on this. I predict a very strong vote out of the committee today. The House already voted on a different version, but we're proud of the work that we're doing here in the Senate.
And as you say, a current law allows one member of the Senate or one member of the House to stand up, and then the objection is heard, and you all are looking to raise that threshold. How are Republicans coming around to this? You mentioned Susan Collins, but do you think you'll actually get enough votes in the Senate to change this law?
I do. We already have 10 Republicans on the bill. I'll note that our committee is the only committee on which both Senator McConnell and our leader, Senator Schumer, serve, as well as Ted Cruz. So what could go wrong today? But overall, we keep adding senators to this bill, Democrats and Republicans. So again, really strong work by a bipartisan group of senators. Now it's our job to take it over the finish line. We're going to make some changes to the bill. Some of them reflect what was going on in the House. Some of them are our own unique way of handling this, and then we'll take it to the floor. We simply cannot allow people to manipulate an 1887 law, and basically use bayonets and bear spray to have their will and overturn the votes of the American people. That's what this vote is about today.
You know, Senator, by the way, we've been talking about this for some time, about how important it is that the Senate comes together and passes this legislation. I know it's one of the few things that the New York Times editorial page and the Wall Street Journal editorial page agreed on after January the 6th, and for good reason. I just wanted to underline that we talk a good bit about Republicans, especially in the House, that twist the facts, twist the truth. I'd just like to stop for one moment. You live in a state where you've got a lot of Republicans in Minnesota, a lot of Democrats as well. Just want to stop for a moment.
We're the only state with a split legislature in the country right now. So, yes, continue. Yeah. Yes.
I want to celebrate, again, another bipartisan achievement by this Congress over the past year and a half. And despite the fact that we are facing some grave political and constitutional challenges, you've got this extraordinarily important piece of legislation, obviously the infrastructure bill, obviously a small step forward on gun safety. I could list about 5 or 6 others, but you could list them better. Could you just talk about that? We always sort of get into our DBT session here and say two things can be true at one time. We could be facing a grave political crisis. Women could be facing a grave a crisis when it comes to their own control over their health care choices. And at the same time, Democrats and Republicans have figured out how to get quite a few things done over the past year and a half, more so than I think probably since you've gotten into the United States Senate.
Exactly. This is our moment where we talk about, yes, a spacecraft can hit an asteroid 6.8 million miles away, because we have defied the odds with this president and gotten things done. Bipartisan infrastructure bill. We're not just talking about it. Bridges are being built. Broadband is going out. We got past the Chips and Science Act, something you didn't mention. We're down to 12% of American production of chips, which are so important for everything from our phones to our refrigerators. We pushed forward, as you noted, gun safety. We got Finland and Sweden near a unanimous vote in the Senate to get them into NATO. We've supported Ukraine and very strong votes in the Senate, including the budget just came out this morning to continue the government. That includes that. We have done many, many things on a bipartisan basis. And one, the president never gave up. He is persistent. And two, you've got leaders in Congress like Senator Schumer and Speaker Pelosi, as well as their Republicans that want to work with them, where we have been able to step by step push these bills through. And so I think so many times people counted us out, but we want to make clear we've got the backs of the American people. And while we have clear disagreements, we don't want, if the Republicans take charge, a number of them have been talking about an abortion ban. You guys know that. You featured on the show. That's why we've got to win this midterm. We just did something about climate change for the first time in decades. That's why we've got to win this as that hurricane bears down on Florida. We got to win in the midterms. We understand that, but none of that has stopped us from deciding we're going to put our differences aside and get some things done. That is what that vote is today in the Rules Committee, where you're going to see a strong bipartisan support, a very good hearing for changes to the Electoral Count Act.